And actually, one of the first things that piqued my interest, because I was the same as most people, was like, oh no, digital, ugh, you know, turn your nose up at it.
We've all done it.
Well, of course,
I feel like
right?
everybody has.
On my second album, so it probably would have been recording this maybe around 2007. So this would have even been pre-Kemper. But are you familiar with the guitar player out of Australia named Brett Garsed?
I'm not.
Go check him out. If you want to just sit there and dive down that rabbit hole and watch this guy play, he's like Guthrie Govan level of good, right? Like just amazing, and a real sweet guy too. So I was always a fan of his playing, so I hired him to play a guest solo on one of the tunes on one of my albums, which he did, and he sent it through over to me. And obviously the performance was spectacular, but I was totally blown away by the tone. So I email him back and I'm like, dude, I hope you don't mind me asking, like, what was your setup for this tone? He's like, oh, I used Native Instruments Guitar Rig 5. And I was like, you did what? Like I mean, fine. Great. It's because it's absolutely spectacular, right? It's great. So I was like, oh, okay. Maybe I'm wrong. You know what I mean? Maybe I'm kind of, just snobby towards something that I maybe should be looking into a little bit more, right?
I had the same experience where one of Jessica's albums we recorded in Belgium. So she wrote and recorded it in Belgium. And they had this guy, Tom Ludvigs, who's incredible. He's basically like a Justin Derrico type of guy in Belgium. He plays on The Voice. He's like the go-to session guy. Yeah. So we were all excited. I was like, oh, I can't wait to see what he's going to bring. Like, it's going to be like the cartage rig. He's going to have like the refrigerator of amp heads. And at this point, I was the same way, where it's like, hey, I can't, it's got to be tubes. It's got to be analog. It's got to be right. And I'm waiting to see this guy show up with all this stuff. And he shows up with a briefcase, a rack SKB briefcase, puts it down. And I'm like, yeah, well, where are the amps? He goes, 99% of the time I use this Fractal XFX3. And I'm like,
oh,
all right, fine. We'll see how it sounds.
Yeah. Because you're going to tell this guy that it's not good.
Yeah. And then the sounds, he's such an amazing player, and it sounded so good. And I was like, okay, well, like same thing you said. Maybe I'm wrong.
Yeah, and that's an important thing to be able to admit, right?
Yeah.
On all levels, in everything in life, right?
Of course.
To just go like, yeah, guess what? I was wrong. That's okay. That's what life's about.
This guy that's doing this at the highest of levels in Europe is saying that 99% of the time this is what he uses. Who the hell am I to say I know better?